We are live.
Hey, Tyler, great to see you again.
Hi, Jeremy. Welcome. It's also great to see you. And hi, everyone joining us today. Welcome to a brand new session of Creators on Air. This is Chilar from Newsletter Circle. I'm publishing written interviews with newsletter operators, mainly Substack bestsellers, in my weekly newsletter issues, but I'm also hosting these live sessions to elaborate more on how top creators build their publications from scratch and their learnings about growing and monetizing their newsletters. Today
And
I have
and
a
this is my first time on a Substack Live, Tyler, so I'm
it,
excited that you invited me.
it's an honor for me to have you for this first live session. I'm sure that this will be a really fruitful discussion because you have been building your newsletter for 5 years, and you're an experienced name in content creation and journalism, etc. So yeah, I have many questions. I hope that we can talk all the things that I want to talk.
Absolutely.
So, for the ones who don't know you, Jeremy Caplan is an educator and journalist. In his weekly newsletter, Wonder Tools, he shares creative tools that make your life more efficient, productive, and enjoyable. He shares his own discoveries like new tools, websites, resources, apps, and this is actually a side hustle for Jeremy because in his daily work, he's the director of teaching and learning at the Newmark Graduate School of Journalism in New York. And he also used to write for Time magazine. So, just before going into the details of your learnings about building your newsletter, since you're an experienced journalist and educator teaching entrepreneurial and digital journalism, I'd like to start with hearing your opinions about the evolving role of newsletters in the media landscape. What is its role in your life as an educator and journalist? And also, what do you think about its evolving role in media?
Thanks, Tyler. First of all, thanks for inviting me. You're showing me a new platform. I've been meaning to dive into Substack Live, so this is a good experiment. And those
Yeah.
of you who are joining, thanks for joining us for this conversation. I think newsletters are an incredible opportunity for people to reach directly the people that they're most engaged with. In other words, readers can directly connect with people writing newsletters. You and I wrote to each other as newsletter writers. Many other newsletter writers write to each other, and readers write to me all the time, and I write back to them. And that never happened really at Time Magazine, right? There are millions of people reading that magazine, but most of them are not in direct communication with the writers and the editors. And so newsletters are just powerful in the direction, the direct connection that you have with the readership and between the readership and the creators. They're also just really flexible. So, I like the fact that I can do a video one week or an audio piece the next week. I can include different kinds of lists. I can embed little apps that I'm making with Claude Artifact into a newsletter. At Time Magazine, I used to want to create a special podcast episode, or I wanted to pitch a new interactive for our website. And there's a huge organization, right? It's really complex to get something like that going. Sure, it's a lot easier these days, but with a newsletter, we can just do our own thing, and so that's really exciting. And I think that's empowered a lot of media creators and
Mhm.
Substackers to create things that are really distinct. It's their own newsletter, it's their own personality, their own style.
Yeah, that's probably um, that's probably why many independent journalists are also running Substack newsletters because they feel more flexible and independent. When you think about your own journey as a journalist and educator, what has your newsletters impact on your life? I mean, it can be both professional and personal.
It's had a lot of impact. I mean, first of all, it's kept me up a lot of nights over the past 5 years. So for anyone who hasn't read Wonder Tools, or doesn't know me, I started this 5 years ago. Basically, it's going to be the anniversary, 50th year anniversary. So I've been thinking about that period of time recently. And I started it as a way of just sharing what I was exploring in terms of tools during the pandemic, because people were stuck at home alone. It seems so far away now, so long ago, but people were stuck alone at home, kind of having to live online. And I had done a lot of exploration online, and so was able to share some things that I found useful with other people in case they would find them useful. And as I dove deeper into that process of creating the newsletter and building it, it kind of sucked me in further and further. And so it's definitely been a big investment of my time and effort over the past 5 years. So that's one big change. And rather than writing about a lot of different things in a lot of different places, I centered my writing focus in this one vehicle to reach people through this newsletter. The second thing is it's introduced me to so many amazing people like you and many of the other people who read the newsletter and who write to me or who have invited me to collaborate on different projects or to speak or to lead workshops or do whatever kinds of things I love to do. And that's been really exciting. I've learned tons from people who have made suggestions or given me ideas. Um, People from startups, like they're one of the amazing things about this moment in technology is the kind of renaissance, the growth in new kinds of tools that are
Mhm.
created all around the world from people in all different countries, including small teams. And so I've gotten to meet a lot of really interesting entrepreneurs and creators and solopreneurs who are creating new tools or creating newsletters or podcasts or video channels. And that has happened through the vehicle of the newsletter by and large, mostly. So that's been really exciting. So it's changed my life in terms of the commitment and the time spent and the effort and what I've learned about, creating a newsletter and developing it, as well as through all of these amazing people who I've had a chance to connect with by virtue of through the newsletter in one way or another.
Yeah, as you said, you started your newsletter in April 2020, like 5 years ago. And
Yeah.
then when we did our first written interview in
Mhm.
April 2023, back then you had over 20,000 subscribers and you just activated your paid subscription, etc. So today you have over 60,000 subscribers. So within the last 2 years, you tripled your email list. So, what I remember from our first interview 2 years ago, you mentioned that collaborations, writing guest posts,
Mhm.
and cross promotions played an important role to grow your list. And also, you
Mhm.
emphasized the importance of showing up consistently, right? I
Mhm.
remember
Mhm.
these two keywords
Yep.
clearly. So, since then, during the last 2 years, what fueled your growth? What, I don't know, other strategies did you experiment with? I don't know, do you have any new learnings about growing your list? Yeah, I'd like to hear about your growth journey a bit.
Yeah. So one thing I think is, a lot of growth is serendipity and good fortune. I think I had good fortune to be writing about something that was kind of an exploding topic, right? AI has just been an exploding topic that wasn't what I was writing about in 2020. And it's not the only thing that I write about, but it's one of the things I write about now because AI is so much a part of our productivity and our creativity tool set. And there's so many exciting things that people can discover in the realm of AI tools. So part of it was just good fortune that I was writing about something that people really are interested in and really are excited to learn more about.
Like
And
you were writing about the right topic at the right time, kind of.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, and there are many other topics that are also, the right topic at the right time, but some topics are just a little bit hotter for people in their mind and in their needs and interests. So that's one thing. That's serendipity. So I don't want to take credit for growth on my own, where some of it is just simply the topic and the serendipitous nature of it. But I do think there are a few things. One is the cross promotions, which you mentioned. That still continues to be an important
Mhm.
part
Can
of
you
my growth approach.
Can you a bit elaborate on what you mean with cross promotions? Because there
Sure.
are different ways of collaborating with other creators, writing
Yeah.
guest posts, like this cross promotion, cross post option on
Yep.
Substack,
Yeah.
or the recommendation feature that we all know.
Yeah.
So
So
what you mean?
I don't use the direct cross publishing feature
Posting.
where you just literally publish and send to everyone. I want to be very judicious and careful with what I'm sending to newsletter subscribers. In fact, today, even for like this live kind of session, I'm hesitant always to blast my subscribers because I really never do that except when I'm sending a post once a week. That's basically been the rhythm and cadence throughout the 5 years. I don't think I've missed any week. I've taken maybe a couple of vacation weeks, but I've never sent extra sponsorship messages or
Mm,
marketing messages or just blasts for no reason. So I don't do the automatic cross sending because if I have a guest post, I want to have an introduction so that readers know like why I'm including this person and what it's about and have context. But I do think having cross posting is useful, just doing it manually. So I post on other
mm,
people's newsletters when I'm invited to do that, so that people who aren't readers of my newsletter can discover what it is and see if it's of interest to them. And similarly, so my readers can also hear from different voices, like people who have really interesting insights about tools that are different perspectives. So that's one cross posting. Another is the recommendations, which you mentioned. So on Substack right now, I think there are more than 250 different newsletters that over the period of time have recommended mine. And that really is helpful because then their readers can discover my newsletter. And I've recommended also a lot of other newsletters. And so hopefully both sides benefit. And that's definitely benefited my numbers in terms of my newsletter growth. I would say a
yeah.
few other things. So if I can just go through it, three other tactics. Events is another one. So like live events
Ah,
and online events. I think
hmm.
that's a really helpful way to, when you're live somewhere, people can see you, hear you, connect with you, see you as a human, and they're more likely to subscribe in that instance than just some random time. And the paid ads occasionally can be helpful. So I haven't done much of that, but I've done it a few times with a few select partners who have a big reach and a relevant audience and charge a reasonable amount. And I think it is worth an investment of a little bit of money when relevant, when appropriate, on occasion to build an audience. If that's a goal you have.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'll go back to that. But before recommendation, it's a no-brainer to use recommendation feature in Substack to feel growth. But for new starters, newbies, it's even like how to connect with other creators or how to make other creators recommend their publication can be a challenge in the beginning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So for this, did you follow a specific strategy? Like, I don't know, maybe reaching out to creators, creating a list of potential partners, and maybe building a relationship before recommending each other.
Yeah,
So
I think
how?
I think those are good. I think those are good tactics. I think having a relationship is helpful. So it's not so you actually know the person, right? So I've been doing these mastermind groups for a while where I invite a bunch of people and we talk about newsletter stuff. And sometimes we, find overlap of interests, and sometimes we recommend each other. Not always, but sometimes that's part of the process of getting to know each other and getting to like each other's newsletters. Also, in the early days, there was something called Swapstack, which was since acquired by Beehive. But that was a platform where you could find other
Ah,
newsletter
yeah,
writers and connect with
yeah.
people who are at a similar level of
Mm,
size or reach. And those were often good collaborations in the early days. I think nowadays, one thing you can do is with notes and potentially on other social platform, but Substack Notes is one I like. You can find other people, you can recommend their material without asking for, a recommendation or anything. You just share the stuff that you find interesting, and people will see if you're sharing their stuff, and they'll probably take a look at your stuff if they're interested, and they may end up recommending you based on that. So I think there's sometimes it can happen like that. I think also reaching out to people and finding areas of collaboration, whether it's a recommendation first or a cross promotion first or a guest post or just curating their content into your material or sharing something that's useful for them that they may not know about, like doing all those kinds of gestures and reaching out to people, establishing relationships without necessarily having like a very specific end in mind can sometimes be helpful.
yeah.
Sometimes asking directly for something before you know someone is not necessarily going to yield something fruitful. But getting to know them over time or being helpful to them over time, that may yield a relationship that has mutual benefit.
Yeah, exactly. And coming back to the paid growth part, did you sponsor other newsletters in your niche or any
Yeah,
other
yeah,
paid channels you utilize?
yeah, yeah. There's a few newsletters that offer dense discovery is an example of one, which is really a great newsletter. And they offer a little like classified message, right? You can basically just tell people about your newsletter, and it's very affordable. In that case, it's like $100. And so for as an investment, if you're generating revenue and if you're producing this as a business, if it's a hobby, you may not need to do this kind of thing. But if you want to run it as a business, that's a very efficient on a cost basis an efficient kind of platform. And there are a bunch of other newsletters that have a kind of cost efficient way to reach their readership on a paid basis with a small kind of classified message. And I think it's a good tactic. I wouldn't necessarily advocate spending thousands and thousands of dollars on social ads, which can be kind of generic, or Google ads. You can do it really tactically if you're really savvy about it, but otherwise you risk, wasting a lot of money reaching the wrong kinds of audiences. Whereas if you have a newsletter that the audience is similar to yours, there can be a really valuable kind of synergy to that.
Yes, I feel like this is an underutilized channel for creators who have the resource to invest
Yeah,
to grow their newsletters. So I just wanted to highlight this. And
yeah,
also, yeah, when we last talked in 2023, I think Substack just launched Notes, so we
hmm,
didn't talk about it. It was
yeah,
really new. And Substack DM and chat and
yeah,
live other features. You said that this is your first time on live, but for example, Substack chat, DM, or notes. I'd
yeah.
like to hear your takes on these features as well. I don't know, just not only to grow, but also to stay engaged with our readers. Are you using these features, and what do you think about them?
Yeah, I've wanted to use chat more and sort of have private chat or chat for paid subscribers that would be special. Haven't really been successful with that, to be honest. I haven't found that a lot of my readers seem to be actively on that chat, on the Substack chat. I use DM occasionally when someone DMs me or I DM another Substack writer, but I haven't really found super a lot of value in those. And as I said, I haven't tried live before, although I've thought about using the live video. I think I may do more of this because I like the idea of the spontaneity of it, and I like the idea of getting to connect with people like you and to be able to talk about things as they're happening without having to labor for 5 or 10 or 15 hours writing something detailed, just for the practical, ease of it and the fluency of it. One thing that's challenging with the Substack Live as it stands, I do live workshops where I'm showing a lot of things. So I'm using Zoom or I'm using Butter, another platform I like to use for live workshops, and I can show things and it's better for my
Mm,
topic. This kind of platform where it's just you and me in our heads in these little rectangles is good if we're just talking. But if I want to
yes,
show things, I guess I can show the like back of my camera, right? Like what's in my
yes.
office. But it's hard to actually show a physical thing. I can show my little tablet, I mean, like my remarkable tablet with notes, but I can't easily show like websites and tools. At least I haven't figured out a fluent, easy way to do that. Maybe I need another phone or something like that. Anyway, so that's a limitation of that. I do want to mention one other thing that I think is not a super common practice, but just something that should be more common for newsletter writers, those who are interested in that subject, which is syndication. So I have two syndication partners and I'm working on a couple of others. And the benefit of syndication is you get paid to distribute your content on other platforms, and your platform reaches lots and lots of other people. So you have growth and revenue benefits,
Mhm.
and you don't have to rewrite everything you do. You kind of repurpose it, which is a third benefit from a production and process point of view. So it's been super efficient. The first relationship I established was with Fast Company. They came to me and said, "Would you be open to syndicating this?" And we had to work it out because they hadn't done that before. We had to work out the arrangement, the financial arrangement, how it would work. And for those who are interested in this, one thing I did insist on as part of that negotiation was like I wanted to link back to the Substack newsletter so that people would still keep signing up and it would be part of the growth flywheel. So I'd recommend that. And they mention on the Fast Company syndications of my newsletter, it links to Wonder Tools on the top and on the bottom.
Mhm.
And the second partner I found, they don't publish it on their website. So it's not competing with my own content from an SEO perspective. It's just being distributed to their custom email lists,
Mhm.
which is great because those were people in South Africa who had never heard of Wonder Tools and didn't know anything about it, and have ended up being a really good secondary audience as well. So anyway, I would encourage people to consider syndication and consider finding syndication partners. They don't have to be big
Mhm.
newspapers or magazines. They could be niche websites. There's all kinds of
Mhm.
potential syndication partners, and I think it's a very underexplored tactic, in my view, in the newsletter world.
Yeah, that's a great one. A few words to add what you said about Substack Live. I totally agree with you that it's not easy to show something if you like to, I don't know, share educative content, etc. It's a bit difficult. So I
Yeah,
think
or share
that
your screen. Just share your screen.
yes.
Yeah.
So probably that's the reason why people don't go live alone and
Hmm.
always invite someone else and they are
Hmm.
having conversation. But one advantage is that you can get the transcript of the
Hmm.
conversation.
Yeah.
Substack provides it, and then you can edit it and then create a newsletter issue
Hmm. Hmm.
with the conversation. I think this is also something which is not used widely, as far as I see, because this way, with this one video, you can create multiple contents
Yeah.
on these channels. This is also, I think, a smart strategy to utilize.
Yeah, I think
Just
it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea, Charlie. And one tactic, just for people who are thinking about that, is I would create a custom GPT or a Gemini Gem or a Claude project, which is what I tend to use, and
mm,
give that your custom styles, right? Your past content, so it has your style, has your approach. Give it a detailed instruction,
exactly.
and then when you give it the material, like this transcript that you're describing, you get a draft in your own voice of your own words, right? Just formatted, reformatted, restyled to fit your newsletter specifications. That's going to be a
Yeah,
very efficient way of, and you still maintain agency. Like it's still your content, it's from your words, it's your ideas, and it's in your style. So I think that's a super efficient way to, yeah.
yeah. This
Great.
is what I've done for a couple of live videos actually. I
Hmm.
uploaded a few past issues that I wrote. Also a few examples from other writers that I like, in terms of structure,
Hmm.
like bullet points,
Yep.
they were to the point, etc. And then I uploaded the conversation transcript,
Yep.
and then ChatGPT gave me the, article in 10 minutes or something. So it was really efficient.
That's great.
Uh, yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, so when we talked in April 2023, you said that you just activated your paid subscription. Um,
Yep.
just to
Yeah.
remind again, you had 20,000 subscribers. Especially recently, I see more creators activating paid subscription way earlier with smaller lists.
Yeah, it's a good
So,
idea. Don't wait.
yeah.
Don't wait 3 years like I did. It's funny because I teach entrepreneurial journalism and I've taught it for a long time. If anyone's on here who's been in a cohort, you'll know that I often will say like, don't put off that, for later. You can, people are
Hmm,
actually interested in supporting you and want to support you and want to get benefits from supporting you and so forth. And you're not giving them that opportunity to be a collaborator with you, to support you, to be part of your community if you don't offer that opportunity. And I think I was afraid to do that. I had all, the usual reasons that everyone always has, to
mhm.
put it off. But yeah, for people who are considering it or thinking about it, there's a lot of good reasons to invite people to be a supporter, and they're not doing it blindly. Like they know when they're supporting you what they're getting, hopefully, if you're clear about that, and what they're not getting and what they are getting and what the benefit is and why they're supporting you. And so they're, kind of give people the respect of kind of giving them that opportunity to support you if they want to, and then give them some benefit as well. Like I think one thing that was challenging for me was figuring out what actually would be useful for people, because
Exactly.
I wanted to give most of the stuff I was writing for free. I didn't want to make it that everyone had to transact to read anything I wrote. I didn't want to do that because in any subscription, the most you're going to get is 5 to 10%, right? And Substack has always said 5 to 10%. I think you found, Tyler, your research was great on this. You found it was closer to 1%, if I'm not mistaken, right? For many of the you can add a lot more nuance to that, I know, but it's often closer to 1% for many people. And so that means that whether it's 1%, 2%, 99% of the people aren't going to see your stuff if it's behind a paywall, basically. So my feeling has always been most of it should be free, but I do think there's things you can do that give benefit to people who are supporting you. So for me, that's been live workshops, because there's a
Hmm.
lot that I write about that it helps to actually see how this works and to see what I'm doing and what I'm making and what mistakes I'm making and how I figured something out and how I do something. It helps to actually see that. So I do think that's a useful benefit. And then there are tools that are just really expensive. And to the extent that I was able to negotiate some free opportunities and free tools and stuff like that, that's a direct benefit that's relevant to the readers
Mhm.
who are interested in that. If they're not, or if they can't pay, it's completely free, that the other stuff. But if they do want to support it, and if they like it anyway and they read it anyway, those are the kinds of benefits. And I think everyone can find their own versions of that. There's a writer who offers free recipes. Like there's all kinds of people who are doing all kinds of cool stuff to supplement their free content. And I think anyway, so yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of inviting people to support you.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a big challenge for many creators, right? What to provide to paid members, how to
Yeah,
balance free and paid content. And sometimes this is one of the biggest reasons stopping people to activate
yeah,
their paid publications. And recently, I was researching what bestsellers are providing to their paid members. I was checking all these paid benefits pages, and I will share it as a report again
yeah,
soon. So I saw, from many creators that they're providing live workshops, ask me anything sessions, and they're emphasizing on community features,
yeah.
even like leaving comments to their posts or
Yeah,
access to
that,
some.
by the way, just on that, I'm not a big fan of that. I think people should be able to comment on posts. They might have a good idea, they might have a good response. Like I don't, at least now, maybe next year I'll change my mind on this, but I've never thought it a great idea to block people from commenting just because
Mhm.
they're not paying. Like I've never found that to be an ideal benefit. I want people to
Yeah.
comment, whether they like something or not, whether they have a correction, an addition, like
Mhm, mhm.
question, like that's good, that's helpful for everyone. So I don't believe in putting that behind a paywall.
Yeah, just maybe making the Substack chat access
Yeah,
private
the chat is a
to
different thing.
paid
Yeah,
members.
the
Yeah,
chat is a different thing. I think that could be like, because that's almost like having a separate Facebook group or something, but
channel.
not having to do it on Facebook. Yeah, it's another channel. But the
Yeah.
challenge with that is I don't know how many people are actively, how many readers, what percentage of anyone's given readers are actually using the chat regularly. Like I don't know. Maybe it's growing, but I haven't seen stats about that. Substack hasn't been very, provided that kind of metric,
It's
so it's hard to know.
Yes, first challenge is we don't know how many people are active on Substack app and they're checking their chats.
Yeah,
And then, I see some, how to say, a couple of type of messages to activate people hanging out in chat. And most of them are like kind of post requesting some answers from
right,
people,
right,
like
which
ask,
can be very
yeah,
time consuming. Like as the creator,
engage,
you have to guard your
yes.
time and use your
So
time efficiently. Yeah,
yeah, because what I observed that the creator asks a question and people are responding, and then they're not replying to this reply because it's time consuming, right?
right,
It's
right.
just like leaving a question there and then wait for people to answer. They answer and leave it there. I
Yeah,
think it's not the ideal way to create a community, but otherwise you need to spend really great amount of time,
yes,
so it's still a bit struggle for people. So I would like to understand better how you organize these live workshops and
yeah,
what you're doing there. It is like you are teaching something and showing tools and what you are building, or it's kind of an engaging thing. Again, when it comes to the topic of the live workshops, do you get feedbacks from the readers, paid
yeah.
members?
Yeah. So
How do you?
I use Luma, which I recommend, by the way, for everyone. I'm not affiliated with them. I just find it very useful, because Luma gives you feedback after every session you use to host your event on Luma. You get people get pinged and say, how useful was this, and the response rate is pretty high. So you get feedback whether people like it or not, what they like about it. And the live events, I do two kinds. I do essentially show and tell, and I do master classes. Show and tell is basically like me saying, "Hey, here's 5 things I've written about recently. Here's how I use Windsurf Cascade, or here's how I use AI, Claude projects with AI to organize these projects that I'm working on. Here's what I find useful. Here's a trick that I find that and I show screen so people can see what I'm doing. They can ask questions, and many of the folks who are the paid subscribers, they've been to prior sessions, so they know me, they know my interests, they know, they have questions, I know them, and it is kind of a consistent community, I would say. Um, and then the other kind of events are master classes where I invite someone in. So we had someone in from Notion, we're having someone in from Capacities, we have
Mm,
various people from different kinds of AI companies. Perplexity, somebody from Perplexity joined us, and we kind of go through some tactics and techniques that are advanced paid subscribers to learn more as you would if you were taking a paid class, let's say, but it's not paid, it's just part of the subscription. So those are the two primary kinds of events. And then I share the recordings with folks afterwards. And there's an AI recording made with Fathom so they can go back through the time code and just watch a certain part if they're interested in
Mhm.
that. And I find that works pretty well. And it doesn't require a huge amount of time investment for me. So just to be candid, like as someone who's busy with a full-time job, like this is a side project for me.
Yeah.
So I can't necessarily invest huge amounts of time on supplemental benefits and so forth, but I can devote an hour, a lunch hour periodically, right, to doing something live, right? Because I'm already using these tools, I'm already familiar with them. So it's fairly easy for me to just go live and show and talk about what I'm doing. And I
Mhm.
encourage people to find those kinds of things you can do that already work with your existing workflow, that already work with what you know, as opposed to things that you have to babysit for many, many hours for the benefit of a relatively small number of people. And the
Mhm.
chat, for example, for me could be like that. That's one of the dangers that people, could just be asking for, customer service, kinds of like tech support. How do I do this in this particular tool? And if I get into that with, a large number of readers, that's just going to be not sustainable from a time
Yes.
perspective. So the nice thing about these live events is that they're scalable, right? We can just have one live conversation, whether it's you and me, or on the live show and tell sessions for Wonder Tools, it's just me and whoever wants to join, right? And um and so that's also a good opportunity to test things and show people things and see what their reaction is live. I would also add one other thing. The live events, I think also, those community events are helpful for me because otherwise I'm just sitting in my own kitchen, or I'm in my office right now at work at the City University of New York, and I'm either in my own office just writing on my own for myself, looking into my own little screen, and or I'm in my kitchen at home, my little kitchen in Manhattan, and it feels isolating, right? It feels solitary.
Yes.
And when there's a group event as part of, for the readership, like then you're with other people, and that's nice. There's a community element. It's like there's a human element, even if it's online. I'm actually thinking of doing some in-person ones, for those who are in the New York area, because I think we need like I need human contact as well, and like I want to be in touch with people, and connect with people. But online, at least it's something, and that matters. I think that matters. Like I think for newsletter writers, a lot of us, I'm speaking, I should speak for myself. Some of us, myself at least, even if you have a large readership, like you could have thousands of people reading your newsletter, but you don't see them,
Yes.
and most of them don't write to you. So you're kind of like, is this resonating? You think it is. People are, hitting like or whatever, so maybe they are. But anyway, but having live events gets you an actual contact. You can actually see people and talk to them a little bit.
Yes, it also helps you to stay consistent, which is something really crucial to grow and
Yes.
build newsletter, right?
Yes.
Because consistent, you need to stay disciplined. To stay disciplined, you need motivation to keep going, etc.
Yeah.
And these human interactions play a huge role actually to stay motivated. And okay, there are some real people, reading and following my work, so
Yeah.
I should keep creating and showing up, etc. So
Yeah.
I totally agree on this. By the way, we know that you're a Substack bestseller with over 100 paid subscribers, but can I ask how many paid subscribers you have? Or if you don't want to share, it's totally fine.
Um, it's been going up, interestingly, and I don't know exactly why. I haven't really put a large effort on it in the past, and recently it's been kind of like a steady stream, a person a day on average growing, recently, but it's not a huge number, right? And it's not a big focus for me in terms of my overall um goals in life. Like it's
Yeah.
as I mentioned before, it's a side project. I know for other people,
Uh-huh.
this is like their primary income, their primary day-to-day focus. I do put a lot of effort into it, so I consider it a very serious hobby or side project, or avocation. And I consider it like a learning challenge. Like, what can I do to learn more, to make this a better newsletter, to grow the newsletter, to find new revenue streams. I would say it's close in the ballpark of the 1% kind of figure. I would put it at that kind of ballpark
Mhm.
range. So I'm not in the 10%, I'm not in the 5%. And it's partly because I don't want to pressure people. I think if I really wanted to, I could put a lot more behind the paywall, and I think it could increase the percentage of paid
Yeah.
subscribers and increase the overall number, but it would come at a cost. Like everything we
Mhm.
do as newsletter writers, or everything we do, period, is trade-offs. So you
Yeah.
can you can push one lever and increase and make more money and get a higher percentage of conversion and blah 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 blah. But then you're gonna make trade-offs. Like some people are gonna be bothered by that or not be able to afford it, or you're gonna lose, gonna have a small readership on some of the content that's behind the paywall, and then people won't benefit from it. So I haven't chosen to make that trade-off. And I'm pretty happy with the growth in terms of the number of subscribers and in terms of the revenue, and also in the fact that most people can continue reading it for free. I like that kind of balance and trade-off. The big thing for me has been the workflow, because as a perfectionist, I'm sure a lot of writers and journalists and editors and creators can relate to this. I just am too much of a perfectionist when it comes to this newsletter. And I know people read it for like 3 minutes or 5 minutes and they don't really care about a lot of the details that I care about. But as a perfectionist, I tend to oversweat the effort I put into each newsletter. And so it just takes too much time.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I have two daughters, and I prefer to spend time with them and with my wife and with my, friends and family and hobbies. And so my big current effort for this year is in a series of different ways to alter the workflow. I can't alter my perfectionist tendencies, but I can adjust my workflow such that I am still maintaining a high level of quality to meet my own standards, but I'm not overdoing it. So I'm not sort of wasting the extra hours to go beyond what is necessary. And part of that is getting help, so having an assistant to help with certain things, to help make the workflow more efficient, to use AI on certain back end parts of it, like the SEO title and description and other kinds of things like that, like the alt text tags. So the AI
Hmm.
is not going to be writing for me, but it's going to be helping with the back end functions, and that's another important time saver. So
Hmm.
anyway, those are some of the things that I'm focusing on in terms of
Yeah.
the workflow and making it more sustainable for me as a human and as a dad and as someone
Yeah.
working.
By the way, you have one of the most beautiful websites that I ever seen.
You mean the
I'm
Substack, or do you
thinking
mean
about
the personal website, or?
Substack. Substack is also great because I love all these designs and structure and everything. Even your logo is, great. But also your personal website.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
yeah, it's an amazing one with all these videos integrated, all these pictures. It gives the opportunity to really understand, what you're providing, who you are. It's really engaging. So, anyone who is watching us, I also highly recommend them to go and check your personal websites to see how a perfect website looks like.
Well,
It's
thank you. I appreciate that. It's jeremycaplan.com if people are curious what
yeah.
you're talking about. And I would say one thing is that I like the tool I use, which is Tilda. If anyone's interested, it's like Squarespace, but I think it's a little
Mm,
nicer and it's more modular. Um, but one thing I would say is, one thing I've realized is how much kind of weed pulling and caretaking for the garden of our content we need to do. And this is one area where I feel a challenge because I don't update the website all the time. And I know that periodically I need to go back and update one of those pages or correct something that's, been sitting for a while in a certain way. And so that's another, I mentioned the workflow is a big area of focus for me for this year.
mhm.
Another is kind of tending the garden of content, which to me means like doing the things that I don't often have time to do in a normal busy week, but sort of making time for them. So, for example, and for those on Substack, I think this might be relevant. I realized there are all of these default messages in the settings that I hadn't changed in a while, right? Like the message that goes out to
Welcome.
people, the message
Welcome.
that, well, the welcome one is the most basic one. And that one I've spent a lot of time before thinking about. But it's all the secondary ones. Like when someone cancels, they get a certain message. When someone's
Yeah.
about to renew 6 days away, they get a certain message. When someone wants to send a gift subscription to someone else, there's a certain message that they get. So there's all of these different kind of messages buried on the settings page of Substack that I hadn't really paid attention to recently. And lately, I've been going back and trying to pull the weeds and sort of fix some of those old messages and improve them and strengthen them, make them more compelling. And I think that's really important. And it's hard to do because it's almost never urgent, right? It's one of
Yeah.
those important but not urgent things. So I think it's kind of like a spring cleaning kind of thing. And for me, it's been like the fifth anniversary. That's like an occasion to look back at all of these little parts of the settings, and that's mainly on the Substack side. But I'm glad the website looks okay, because I think I need to go back and do some more weed pulling for that too, to keep it up to date.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say now it's easier than it's ever been to maintain your own site, which is nice. You can
Yes.
really use some templates and customize them and have it done in a day, and it's not that big a challenge.
Yeah, I think especially understanding why people stop reading or stop subscribing to your newsletter by
Yeah.
sending maybe a survey and with a
They
kind
never do it
message.
though. They never respond to the survey, unfortunately. When
Yes,
they're leaving, when they're going out the door, like
this
when they're leaving your newsletter.
may this they don't care anymore.
Yeah, when they're
Ah,
leaving, they're not gonna fill a survey, I find. At least I should say I've had very little luck with that. Um, but what I've just added, in my case, is like a little parting gift. It's like, I know you're too busy, that's fine. We all have like
exactly.
incredibly overwhelming email, but here's something that you might find useful. And if
Yeah.
you want to come back at some point, you can come back and subscribe when you feel like it, if you feel
Hmm.
like it, or you can just visit the website if that's easier for you.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's just like, but that's better than what I used to have, which was just like, thanks, goodbye, whatever the default message was. If you have any of the
Yeah.
default messages, I would say, like, don't use the default messages, personalize any
Hmm.
of the messages that
Hmm.
are there, customize them. I'm surprised at how many newsletters I subscribe to, that are Substacks, where the welcome response is just like the default response. So that's like,
Hmm.
step number one when you're creating something on Substack, is just to customize that so that people know who you are, why you're sending them, what you're going to send them, what your approach is, what your goals are, what they're going to benefit from, all that what are some examples of the past content you've done, like all that stuff is pretty straightforward, and
Hmm.
is useful for people. Like, that's why they subscribe. They don't want to get a generic response. One thing I also encourage people to do is to write to me when I welcome them. I actually want to get an email from them if they're interested in, like, saying hello. Partly for the reason I mentioned earlier, which is that, like, this is a solitary, isolating kind of work, right? When you're just writing on your
Hmm.
your own desk. So, and I'm surprised at how many people actually do. A lot of people write to me. A lot of people respond to that and write a short message, and I write back to them. And so that's been really
Right.
rewarding. I would say I've had thousands of conversations with people, through
That's
email conversations, which is amazing. Like, it's a really interesting way to meet people, to learn about what their work is, to learn about their tool sets, which is also helps me as a writer and as an explorer.
hmm.
So yeah, I would encourage people to do that. I mean, it can be time consuming, so you have to be savvy about
Yeah.
how you do it, and you have to have a system for doing it. But but it can also be really rewarding. So anyway, yeah,
Yeah, you are not doing this, since you are waiting something in return, because
right.
you like to learn more about your readers and you stay connected, you want to build relationships. But this is what I think these people also are support your work in the end. Once you build all these relationships, although this is not your, people will upgrade to paid as well,
It
right?
could
In
be.
the
It could be. It could be. I mean, I think in general, you put good vibes into the world. You try to be helpful to people, and you pay it forward. Like, so many people, in my own case, if I think about my own life, I saw Bill Mitchell join. Bill Mitchell is super, super helpful mentor to me, a great person to me. Like, so many people have been so helpful to me over the years, and I've learned so much from. So whether or not someone that you do something, reach out to, or send an email to, whether they do something directly for you, that doesn't really matter in the long run. It's like, people have helped me, you know, now it's my opportunity or my responsibility to help
yeah.
other people in whatever way, or, sort of pass on that kind of generosity that many of us have received from others over
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And so it's not necessarily about expecting something from that person.
Yeah.
It's just about, like, being part of the chain, right? It's like being part of a
Exactly.
chain of, like, just kind of
Mhm.
giving good vibes, or being helpful, or just being,
Yeah.
like, generous, or in whatever way you can, or sharing in whatever way you can. Um, and yeah. But it is amazing, just going back to the emails, like it is amazing how many people write such interesting things. Like they're just from a part of the world that I've never been to, or they have a job that I've never heard of, or they use some kind of tool setup that I've never even conceived of. And without having that email connection, I would have never been exposed to that, or never learned that, or never seen that, or never met them. And in some cases, it
Mhm.
leads to something. Like in some cases, it leads to a collaboration. There's a few people I've been in connection with just through the newsletter who have some amazing skill or some amazing knowledge, or and we found ways to collaborate, which is really really exciting. And that
Mhm,
doesn't
yeah.
happen. It only happens if you kind of like either reach out to people actively or ask them to reach out to you and then follow up.
Yes.
But it also it's possible in the newsletter world because you just have this connection, right? Like people can literally write back to your email reply. And again, back to the Time Magazine days or whatever publication you're thinking of, like there's less of that direct connection.
Yeah, recently I'm using Substack DM for this purpose, by the
With
way.
with readers.
Yeah, new subscribers. I
Okay.
start today. Also, I have a teammate supporting, my
Hmm.
work. We work together, and we are starting today by welcoming new subscribers who have a Substack DM to say,
Uh-huh.
"Welcome! I just saw you subscribed. So, what brought you here? What you
You
know?"
you send them an email inviting them to DM
No, no,
you.
no.
You
Substack
DM
DM.
them through Substack.
Yes, exactly. Since there
Interesting.
are some, yes, normally there is a limit of messages that you can send on Substack, by the way,
Uh-huh.
if these people are not subscribers. But
Right.
if since they are already subscribers, there is no limit. So we can send as many messages as we
And you do
want.
that through your dashboard, through your subscriber dashboard, or you do it through the
Yes,
DM interface.
because currently not 200 people are coming every day, so it's still manageable, and if
Hmm.
you do it on a daily basis, it doesn't take so much time just to send messages. And of course, then the conversation starts because
That's
people.
great. That's a great idea. What
Yeah.
percentage of people respond when you send them a DM?
Um,
Approximately.
Let me check this because
Okay.
I didn't want to check this like too early, not to
Mhm.
discourage myself to do it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's been already 1 month. It's a great idea to check the percentage, and but there are many actually, and the ones who return to our messages actually. It is a great discovery opportunity for me. Why
yeah.
people
That's
are
great.
reading historical, or what are their challenges about newsletters.
Yeah.
uh, you know I mean, whether they just started their newsletters or they are in the later stages of the journey, what they're
Yeah, it's
expecting.
great. It's a great idea. I love the idea. Yeah, and it's very light interaction, right? Like it's not a whole email, it's a
Yes,
simple interface.
yeah, yes, exactly.
It's
It's way more easier. At
yeah,
least the experience is way more easier just to you message. And I think they're already receiving all these welcome email. But
yeah,
then sending this personalized message. I saw that you also have a newsletter. By the way, all these messages also have a touch of personalized parts. Like, I
yeah.
saw that you also have a newsletter. I saw that you started your newsletter, I don't
Right.
know, 3 months
Right. That
ago.
and that's the part that's time consuming.
Yes.
That's the part that really requires an investment of time. So
So yeah, it depends on how whether you have this resource to invest. Of
yeah,
course, if it's
yeah,
a side hustle, if you have a day job, of course it's not manageable. Maybe
yeah,
you can outsource this. I don't know.
yeah,
This is
yeah,
possible. Because these personal relationships, I think it's time consuming. Yes, its return is not really direct, but it's great because it feeds you, like it helps you to improve your content, I don't know, to better
yeah,
shape your
yeah.
target
It's
audience.
great. It's great.
Yes, it's
Yeah, and
inspiring. This is how I feel.
Jay Klaus, I saw a presentation by Jay Klaus who writes this creator kind of newsletter,
Yeah.
and he said there's two questions you can ask people when they join. One is, what's the context or issue that led you to
Mm.
sign up for this list? Right. And the other is, if I would devote an entire newsletter to just one topic, what would that topic be, or what should that topic be? And I thought those
I
were two really, really good questions. And you can ask those in a welcome email, but you could, or in a survey of some sort, but you can also ask them in a DM, right? You can say like those two things, and you get a lot of really useful information
mm, yes.
from people.
Yes, because when I asked this in welcome emails, I didn't get response, a high
Right.
response rate, to be honest. Another way some smart creators are doing, in welcome emails, they are sharing some resources. And
Yes.
each, like 5 resource, for example, they created. This can be ebook, article, I don't know, but
Yeah,
each
I share a list of tools. I share a list of tools, like a one pager. As soon as people respond, I mean, as soon as people sign up, they get that. I call it a content gift instead of a lead magnet, which is before people subscribe. You tell them, hey, you're going to get this. This is just like a little content gift that you give people. Once they subscribe, they get this little thing in the welcome, and it just has a nice feeling to get something beyond just the generic. Welcome to the
yes.
newsletter.
Yeah, in addition to that, some creators are doing it in a way that each resource is linked to a specific pain point.
Uh-huh.
Instead of asking whether you have a newsletter, just tell
Oh,
me.
interesting.
They
Interesting.
share the source how to start a newsletter. So if the
Right.
person,
Interesting.
yeah, get this
That's clever. That's a
article,
clever
yeah, get
tactic.
the answer. Exactly. I think this is the smartest tactic. I always would like to do this. I didn't find enough time, but I think it's
Right.
the most because you get the answer without asking the question.
It's a great insight. Yeah. And actually the insight behind the insight is that what people do is more important than what they say. And
Exactly.
what they do is more reflective of how they really feel than what they say, right? They might say, "Oh, this is great. I got this because I'm just fascinated by the topic," but they actually got it for a very specific sub reason or whatever. And if they click on something, that's going to show their interest as opposed to them responding in a certain way in a survey or whatever.
Yeah, actions speak louder than words.
Right, right. Another way to say it. Yep, another way to
Yeah.
say that. Exactly. Yeah.
Let's
Um,
let's make this our closure sentence then.
okay, that sounds great. Yeah, I'm excited to have done this. Thank you for this invitation and for kind of hosting this and for introducing me to the world of Substack Live. I'm definitely going to be doing this again. I'm thinking about it on the occasion of the fifth anniversary. Like, there's all of these lessons I've learned and mistakes I've made and things I've tried and I want to share some of that. So maybe I'll do one of these live again.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a really great pleasure. You are one of the early supporters of my work. I had a really small list when I reached out to you, and you immediately accepted to my interview offer. You shared all these incredible, useful insights. So it's really great to stay connected, and I know that you are really approaching it with a perfectionist mindset. To your newsletter, you are
Mhm.
thinking about it, you are improving it. So I always would like to have you to share to hear your most recent learnings and I don't know,
Yeah,
discuss. So we can do it again in the future. And
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
congrats for
absolutely.
your
Thank you. I do want to pay tribute to your work too, because I was very impressed. At first, I was intimidated, as you know, by your question list originally when you
Yes, I
first interviewed
remember.
me. But after being intimidated by the length of it and the exhaustive comprehensiveness of it, I was really impressed by it because it showed how thorough you are in terms of your research and your analysis. And your newsletter, as a result of that, has a lot of useful, specific information instead of generalities. You have like these creators telling really specific things about
Yes.
their newsletter, which is really useful. And that's what's needed, not just the generalities or the vague kind of truisms. So I applaud you on that. And on the data, your research. When we spoke in person, you told me about some of the data you were collecting at the time. And a lot of people speak in general terms about trends, but you actually have looked at actual, really a lot of comprehensive data, and I applaud you for that. I think that brings a certain amount of rigor to the subject matter, and especially in this field, like this newsletter field that's growing. There's a lot of uncertainty about what actually
Yes.
works and what doesn't, and what are people doing, and how many people are subscribing, and how many people are paying, and what are they paying on average. And you've really given a lot of
Mhm.
substance to what you've written about it. So I appreciate that, and I know it benefits a lot of other creators who need it. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much. Let's stay in touch, and thank you
sounds good.
everyone joining us today. I will also add this live recording to newsletter page, and also Jeremy, if you like to, you can also share with your audience. Thank you for
Sounds good.
joining us. Have a great
Sounds good.
day.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, China.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.